Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're so glad that you're here. WIN, Women Who Inspire and Network, and we have more people that will be joining us along the way. I'm Angela Hawk. I own HLA Consulting.
So basically, WIN, Women Who Inspire and Network, is really just a group of women, a culture of women who support each other. And I think we all like that, the sound of that, and we all need that. As we go through our struggles and our triumphs of, being in business for ourselves and even, if we're working for other people. So it's really just a big community of women supporting women. To say what I love about WIN, and that is exactly it, that it is a community of women that are supporting each other. And as a networking group, though, it's to me it's not the same thing every time, and that's kind of neat too. And we have really great speakers, and we talk about all kinds of different things, and we get to meet these really wonderful women who come into this group and share their knowledge and their wisdom and their journey. So
I am going to tell you a little bit about what to expect. As far as housekeeping goes, I encourage you to use chat. We also encourage you to put your business card or your business information in chat so that we all have access to it. We can save the chat, and then we know how to reach out to you. There will be an interview session later on, so please stay muted during that. And then after that, we will have a time of networking at the end of the program. Once again, thank you for being here today.
Our special guest today is Stephanie Weaver, and I reached out to her months and months ago because specifically, I just really had this idea that adding either a membership or a subscription to your business may be a great way to incorporate added revenue for something that you're already doing. Stephanie Weaver is based out of Huntsville, Alabama. She paints realistic landscapes, still life, pet and children portraits with a preference of oils, using her own method of combining an alla prima. Did I say that right, Stephanie?
You got it. Yeah.
Alla prima. Approach with the Renaissance technique of applying thin glazes. Her artistic process began in childhood thanks to her mom. But as most teenagers do, she wanted something different and pursued technology and money. As a result, she holds 2 master's degrees, MBA with a concentration in management information systems and another master's in project management. So she's really, really smart. In 2001, as a result of a need for a creative outlet from a high-stress job, Stephanie found her way back to what brought her joy as a child, painting and drawing. While living in Atlanta, she studied under several artists and quickly found her painting style. Stephanie held shows at the Atlanta Fox Theater and several galleries in the Atlanta area. In 2007, Stephanie and her family moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and she pulled out of all of the galleries. She continued to paint but stayed dormant from the art community. In 2014, Stephanie gave up the stressful career to focus on her family while her husband was deployed. Now that her husband is stateside, she has been able to awaken what had been dormant for years, reaching out to the painting community. Stephanie began teaching oil painting in person in 2019. Quickly, she realized that her skill set in leadership, technology, and art presented a unique opportunity. She could be available to developing artists regardless of geography. You can join her online oil painting classes and group online classes with fellow positive painters from all over. So thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today. We're so excited to have you, and so grateful for your husband's service to our country as well.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you became an artist besides what we know already?
Sure. So like you mentioned, back in 2001, I was kind of in a stressful job, and I was in the corporate world, and I worked for UPS at the time, and I worked for Brown Do For You, and I was in the XML online tools area, and it was one of those jobs where your opinion didn't matter, and you sit in meetings to talk about meetings that you're planning to have. And was. And we literally argue over, is it optional or conditionally required, like language. And so, me being me, which is kind of a type A, very goal-oriented, very overachiever. I had 2 master's degrees by the time I was 22. So very much an overachiever. And just kind of sitting in there and being confined to that was just like, it was confining. It was very constricting. So I needed a creative outlet. I needed some place where I could express myself and not worry about criticism. So that's where I started oil painting. I found a teacher. Actually, I started with, for VHS was back then, and I started with Bob Ross in my garage and bought his whole kit and started out there in the little TV that had the VHS in it. And I started painting those majestic mountains, and mine were just holy crap. They were not good at all. And I was like, I need a teacher. I need like a real teacher. And because he's great at it, inspiring people, but the techniques and how to use the paint and how to use mediums, he didn't really talk about that. So, and there's a lot more that goes into oil paint than what he let on. And so anyway, I found a teacher, and it became my favorite part of my entire week. It would take me 45 minutes to drive there and an hour and a half to get home because I was in Atlanta traffic. But it was my favorite part of every week. And then I remember, it was probably like about 2-3 months into it, I was just like, if only I could do this for a living. If only I could figure out a way to paint every day and have this joy every day. And that's where the seed was initially planted. And there was a lady in my class, her name was Claiborne, and she used to be a major marketing executive for a major toy store. And she gave it all up to become a cabaret and artist singer. And it was just, she was so inspirational in being that person who gave up the corporate world to pursue her dream. And so that was just a seed that was planted in my mind of, it is possible. You just have to find a way. And so I was reading books about like how to quit your day job and do all those things to work my way towards doing this for a living. And it took 15 years. And it really, I could have done it at any time, but there was that fear factor because I grew up with the mindset that you go to job, you get a job, you get your pay, you do your job, you do it well, and you'll get rewarded. There was none of this, entrepreneurship aspect of the world that I grew up in. My dad, he worked in music, and he started out injection molding in 8 tracks and worked his way up to VP of operations. And so, with only a high school degree. And so it was just keep your head down, do your job, do it well, you'll get rewarded. And that was the mindset that I had like the entire time. So to be able to move from a corporate to an artist, which to me at that point, especially as a kid, it's not a real job, but, and it very much is actually, it's a mindset that had to totally shift that it is an entrepreneur, and you lay your own path, you have to figure it out on your own. And I know that's kind of how it all got started. And it wasn't really until 2014 when Ben was deployed that I really had time to focus on myself and less on everybody else and earning money, traveling, and doing all the things that I could do to be the perfect working mom.
What hurdles have you had to overcome as a working artist?
Yeah, well, a lot of it was mindset because it was, like I said, you go to school and you go get a job, and that's kind of what you do. And so getting over that mindset that you can really do anything that you set your mind to. And that was something my mom always taught me, is you can do anything that you set your mind to. And so that was one hurdle. And then there was a minor hurdle of accepting that, yes, you are an artist. You have the title. Give it to yourself. You're an artist. You're not a hobbyist. You're not, and so those are the mental hurdles. The hurdles that were outside of me were more of the art world itself is actually very broken. And when I started reaching out into the community and becoming part of these communities, I started seeing how broken it was. And it's not something that, unless you're in it, you're not going to see it. Laundering. There's also excessive drug abuse. The first forum that I belong to on Facebook, one of the posts says, "What drug do you do to get creative?" And it was just rampant with, like, I do mushrooms, I do marijuana, LSD, all these drugs and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know this was I didn't know this. And it turns out that that's actually very much the creative world. And when I was seeing all of these other hurdles, I was like, I'm not willing to compete and live in those environments of just really negative. It's a very negative, very self-destructive environment. And so I had to find my little niche. And that was another just, huge hurdle. How do I find my home? And I ended up just creating one because I couldn't find one.
How do you see your role in developing future artists?
Well, I definitely want to be a positive role model. I want to be that positive role model for that next generation. And so, yeah, you can have a good family. You can have not beautiful artwork. You can have friends and family without all of this influence. It's not necessary. And there was even a book that I read about habits, and I thought it was going to be about artists' habits all throughout history, like Mozart and Bach and Picasso, and I thought it was going to be, they woke up in the morning and they had their breakfast and they were instantly inspired, and it totally wasn't. Most of them were on uppers and downers. So that is, I don't preach this, I guess, on my website, but it's an underlying notion that, drugs are not acceptable. If you want to have creativity, your mind is the most powerful machine that you have that's in the world. And to inhibit it like that is inhibiting your art, it's inhibiting your abilities, and it's inhibiting your future and your mindset. So when I think about that next generation and what they're seeing now, and if that's the first post that they come into, I want to find a way to kind of get into that, not necessarily that world, but to turn them the right way.
Tell us about Positive Painters. You've developed a membership called Positive Painters, is that right?
Yeah, so Positive Painters, when I was putting together this, I started thinking about, I wanted to influence the next generation of artists. So how do I do that? And my first thoughts was to create a subscription box where, you send out oil paints and have a video up online that walks them through the process, and then they become invested in you. You portray yourself on Instagram, social media, and all this stuff in the positive light, so that they can see that you don't have to be all negative. You can paint and have a positive life and positive influences. So, but the subscription box, I went away from that because I was thinking about all the logistics of that, right? So actually putting together the box, shipping hazardous materials, and I didn't feel like I would have that connection with them if I was just giving a subscription. A subscription is a service that you provide, whereas a membership is an interaction between yourself and other members to grow and support each other. Very much like what you're doing here at WIN. You grow and support each other. That's a membership. and we're working on the kinks and the founding members. I'm going to have 50 founding members, and right now I'm at about, I think, 13. And so we're kind of working out the kinks and developing what does it mean to be positive and work together and collaborate together to build each other up. So I'm really looking at these founding members, these 50 founding members, to help define what would be beneficial to the community as a whole. Coming up, we did our first lunch and learn last week? I think it was last week, where we did a presentation on everything you need to know before you start up an Etsy shop, because you actually need to do a bunch of steps beforehand, provide a workbook. And so that was for the positive painters. And then we've got another one coming up next month where we talk about, okay, so now that you got your Etsy shop, let's talk about print on demand. You know, how do you print products and sell those on Etsy in an integrated manner? So it creates that reoccurring revenue stream that, or not reoccurring, but it creates another revenue stream to help, you know, bring in some funds. Yeah, the membership, I just started moving people over from Teachable. So teachable.com is what I use for my online courses. And so I started moving people from Teachable to to StephanieWeaverArtist.com.
Just to make sure that we're all clear, what is the difference between your subscription and your member?
The difference is that the subscription is something that you give to somebody. So, for example, you know, the Bark Box. So you can go to barkbox.com, and every month you're going to get a fun little box goodies for your dogs. That's a subscription. Or your monthly magazine, that's a subscription. I give you my money and I get something in return. Whereas a membership is, you know, I'm going to give you some stuff, but I want you to interact with the community. Or, you know, I'm going to give you some stuff and let's talk. There's more of an interaction with that. And so when I was picking up those components, that really solidified, okay, what I really want to do is a membership, because I want to, you know, help the next generation of artists. And the best way to do that is to have that connection and have that interaction with them. So
once your membership is established, how much maintenance is required to keep it thriving and growing?
Okay, this is a great question, because one of the things that's something I'm always looking forward to. So I think you said it in my bio, but my history is I was in IT, and when I worked for ADP, Automated Data Processing, I managed a team of project managers and a team of implementation consultants. And so their job was to implement systems and then train people how to use those systems. So the whole time I'm building this thing, really like, oh, I want 100,000 people on this thing. Yeah, in like 10 years, because if you had 100,000 people like tomorrow, that would be a lot of scrambling. So, nice slow growth is what I'm all about. And then after next year, just let it ride, because I'll have the team in place. And that's the funny thing about all of this, is like my whole life has been building up to this, and I'm so excited to see this coming to fruition. It's just, I've always wanted to be part of something amazing. And I was telling my mastermind group that even if it would be so amazing and really, really neat is if I were part of that next Rembrandt's life. And that would make my life totally worth it.
Can you share any struggles that you've had just getting this off the ground?
Oh,
We know that you struggled with, but like maybe something else that you can share with us?
Sure. Well, we already hit on mindset. That was big. The other one was the technology aspect. So what I didn't know when I was kind of walking into this is that the job that I took on was essentially the job of a IT department. Like, you would actually hire somebody to do this for you. And so the technology aspect of it is when I wanted to move from Teachable, which is an online course, and then I knew I still wanted to teach, but I also wanted the membership aspect of it. And Teachable allowed for that, but with Teachable, you're basically building your castle on rented land. There's nothing there that I own. They can change the rules on me at any time. So, as with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they can change the rules on me at any time. And we just saw that with TikTok. Gone. Forget about it. So when I started looking at this in terms of technology, did I want to put my eggs in a basket that I didn't control? And the answer was no. There are membership sites and social sites like Mighty Networks. There's a new one called Circle. Teachable also handles those things. I decided that I didn't want to do that, so I built my own WordPress site. Now, the technology part of that is, if you're familiar with WordPress, you purchase plugins to create this, or you do custom code. And so my first aspect was the learning management system. And so I plugged that little sucker in there and then learned it had legs. So then I learned that I needed a membership plugin, and then I needed a theme that worked with it. I needed a social media plugin. So all these different plugins, wrapping my mind back around that, I was like, okay, well, let's just project manage this thing. Okay, we're building a system. And so the technology was a huge aspect of it. And what I didn't realize was that when I was in these forums, Facebook forums, to help with the technology aspect, I was dealing with developers. These people did this for a living, and they would charge $10,000 to $100,000 for what I did. And it took me 3 months, and Julie knows this. There was one night where I got 3 hours sleep. There was 1 week that I got 8 hours sleep because I was so entrenched in this. And I'm like, I hold my head. I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm so close. But my community that was already developed, they're the ones that really helped push me through it, because they would ask questions about, where do I find this? And at the time I was using Teachable, Eventbrite, and another website. So where do they go? And I wanted to bring everything together to better serve my audience.
So what are the benefits of having a monthly subscription for you, the business owner, and for your clients?
Sure. So for me and the client, this one I think is a perk for both of us. It's a focused community. And, my purpose is positive painters. Let's build each other up. Let's support each other. Let's, if you got a question about, a technique, throw the question in there and let the community help you. And so it's a very focused community and positive environment. And so that's a perk for everybody. But then the perk for everybody is it's built on a stable platform. One that I don't have to worry about, Teachable raising up the prices on me, which they did. And they were also purchased by a Brazilian company. And so there was that worry. Then, it's stable in terms of nobody's filtering my content. I built up 10,000 plus followers on Facebook, and I'm getting maybe 2% interaction. With a focused community. It's the interaction is like 80 to 90% right now. But then, like you mentioned in the very beginning, definitely adds a recurring revenue stream. So that is also a big perk for me. And then the community itself is what I want to see with these artists. Is right now there's very much a stigma about you have to be alone, isolation, and isolation is depressing. And then there's also a stigma that we are in competition with each other. I want to remove those stigmas. And they would meet at the pub, 19 of them, every week, and review each other's works, critique it, talk about their lives, build and grow together. And had it not been for that group, we wouldn't have Chronicles of Narnia, and we wouldn't have The Hobbit, because J.R. Tolkien was actually hesitant to write about his love, which was actually the forest. And so that I hope that my community of artists learn that they can share with each other, and that's just going to help them grow.
It is so cool. I'm so glad that you shared that example of, such a popular and really classic novel that's become a movie. And I mean, that's a perfect example of collaboration and how, the fruit of it came out of it. And, I agree with you. We need to do more collaboration. Would you say there's a sweet spot that keeps your members engaged with your community group?
Well, yeah. So I think part of it is also the like-minded group of people. We're all very, kind of goal-oriented. We all love to paint. We all love to share and share our latest works, ask questions. We're not really kind of afraid of that. So I think that's one, is having those like-minded people. But then I've also put in systems in place to kind of encourage participation. So that was another technology component, which is it's called gamification for gallery. So the Positive Painters, starting September through December, will earn points, and the top 3 point earners will get a gallery page on the StephanieWeaverArtist.com that shows their 5 images, and it can link out to their website, link out to their social medias, so that it encourages engagement and then also gives them the backlinks that they need to better their SEO. Like I said, I'm a technology nerd, so I'm all about SEO, domain authority, and all that, and helping the artists do that. And that's one of the other components that I think that I can really help the artists with, are the technology and understanding and what they need to do to market their business, to create those websites, what they need to consider for landing pages, and all those other components. So, but that gamification is going to grow. I've already received some feedback from some members that it'd be great if maybe they had, once they achieved X rank, which I don't know the ranks yet, once they achieve X ranks, maybe they get some brushes from Escoda or Rosemary and Company, these just drool-worthy brushes that we all love. And so those are things that are in the process, and this is the fun part, where you get to do rewards for participation. That makes me so happy.
That is so fun. It sounds like a really great community. It gives us sort of an intrinsic feeling, even though there's nothing tangible about it. What about business owners, let's say, who are here today that are thinking about a membership as part of their business vision? What would you say to them? What recommendations do you have?
If I were to do it all over again, I would still build it on my own website. And if you don't have the income or the technology knowledge for that, there are some great softwares out there that could handle it for you. And they're actually pretty inexpensive too, I think. But yeah, you want the technology in place, which is a website that can, you create multiple membership levels. So really identify, what does it mean to have multiple membership levels? What are the perks for each level? What information do you want to provide for each level? And I did a lot of research before I even started laying anything out in a website. I would look at subscription boxes, and I started looking at those, looking at the pros and cons, basically doing SWOT analysis. You got to really do the analysis and then figure out what you have to offer that is different from everybody else, that stands you apart. You can't be everything to everybody, or you're going to be nothing, type of thing. So you got to really figure out what your niche is and what you can provide to them.
Probably goes with time management as well, because if you think you can do X, Y, and Z, then you have to also have the time to provide it. But what you're doing is, because it's a membership, and not a subscription, it's more of the intrinsic side of things, but you still have to be able to plan your time before it happens, during the time it happens, and probably even follow up, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, big time. And that was part of my plan was, I knew this was going to be a building year. And so the first really 6 months, and I know it's going to sound kind of bad, but this COVID really helped me focus on this. It gave me the dedicated time to focus on creating this new baby timeline of migration from Teachable onto this platform, and then I had to continue to do my work. So I worked to get 4 weeks ahead on creating my weekly oil painting projects. The weekly oil painting projects are classes that come out every week for the platinum members and also the silver members. So I had to make sure I kept that going out 4 weeks ahead, so that way I had 2 weeks of 100% dedication to wrapping up the membership site. And so time was a big aspect of it.
Some processes, you've already talked about some, but is there anything else you can recommend as far as like establishing the process for a subscription or a membership?
Okay, so the processes. So if I were to look at this, the membership is probably the easiest implementation as far as your processes and managing that membership, because you don't, for me, it's nothing logistical in terms of getting something out the door. It's more logistical in terms of I need to focus on my community through the computer and create my live meetings, because we've got our, starting in September, we're going to continue our monthly lunch and learns. We're going to continue, we're going to start peer reviews. We're going to start, what was the other thing, the quarterly gallery. So managing all of those aspects and making sure, and then the weekly, we're going to do weekly social sharing. So I expect artists to show, here's my latest pen, please repin it. And then everybody that posts in that, they're going to repin that artist's artwork so that it encourages engagement from new audiences. So there's going to be weekly things like that. So logistics is part of the major process, just to make sure that you can deliver all of these little bitty pieces and not lose anything. Me being me and the kind of the project manager that I am, my plan is to eventually get a virtual assistant. So I'm documenting all these things. The process is, I think, you got to do it like everything else. You just walk into it. You just had a baby. You have no idea how to do it. And you walk into it and you're like, oh, okay. All right, we're doing this today. And then you find out that's repeating. And then you build that process around it.
When do you know that you're no longer a hobbyist and now you're an artist?
Good one. Oh man. When my breaking point was when I started thinking about all the marketing ideas that I could do with this artwork. So at the time I was Art for Paws, and I focused on commissions for custom oil pet portraits. And all I could think about is like, I need to get in touch with Mission Canine Rescue, and we could do this and we could do that. And and I need to get in touch with the Greater Huntsville Humane Society, and we can go do this, we can do that. And even like the Dylan's dogs?
Dylan's Dogs for Diabetes.
Yes. And I was like, oh, we need to do this. So the moment that I went from I want to paint for my joy to the moment I want to paint for others, that's when it switched from a hobbyist to a business.
Do you still get joy though when you paint for others?
Oh, I totally do. That is, I finally posted a couple pictures last night because I realized I haven't shown any of the paintings. And like, well, this little guy right behind me, little King Charles Spaniel, that's the third painting I've done for this gentleman, and he's now having me do another one for him.
Wow.
And hearing, like, he called me at one of these, because this one's Kingston, and Lincoln that I did, it was another memorial portrait, and he called me and he was like in tears. He's like, a text would not be sufficient for what I have to say for you. And at first I was like, oh God, what's wrong? And and he was just, I am totally blown away. What you did was just amazing. I can't wait to get home. And so it brings a tremendous amount of joy. And it's not even doing it for people, but I still get a tremendous amount of joy doing it for myself. Like this guy right here, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with him, but he's got I've been working on him for like 6 months. He's been an idea in my head for a year, and he's probably got at least another 6 to 9 months left of work because I'm still building him up in my head. And the joy that you get from painting, it cannot be measured by the number of paintings that you complete or the amount of money that you bring in. It's a flow. It's creating something from nothing every single time, and that's completely yours. And when I teach my students, that's one of the things that I really emphasize, is that what you're creating is yours. I'm just teaching you the process. Everybody's painting is different, just like their thumbprint.